What are some of the implications of process theory for science?
Well, we're in this situation where science doesn't have the right equipment to deal with the problems that are coming up. So process theory should provide that equipment. In other words, something to hang your hat on. And this is largely the problem with ESP. There's no place to put it in the scientific context. Mm-hmm. So we start out then by postulating a projective basis to reality in which the objective things later fit. And with this projective basis, we can then go ahead and examine its character, and I have to caution that we'll expect it to have properties that are not objective. In other words, have a whole repertoire of non-objective characteristics that you'd have to get used to. And it is those things that would help with talking about human non-objective, human values. See, when you talk about love, well, one aspect of love is the attraction between persons. Well, you have the basis for that when you can talk about force in physics. It's an attraction between electrons and protons. It's not a shower of particles. See, if you were to reverse it and talk about persons having a shower of particles between each other, you see how ridiculous it would have to be. Now, there are other implications of the process theory, because having made that investment of projectivity as fundamental, but as the moving power, the motive power behind these things that are bouncing around, you then have a basis for talking about life, which is a motivation of inert matter. When the inert matter begins to take unto itself a thrust and an initiative that makes evolution come about. Evolution is another problem that the theory should address. And it isn't a question of explaining everything down to brass tacks. It's more accommodating it, because we have to be prepared for something that is not deterministic. If you want something to be deterministic and projective, it's not going to work, because they're contradictions. Determinism can only apply to objects.
How does determinism fit in with the sort of the standard description of evolution as generally understood?
Well, the way it does for the inventor, when you find what the laws are, you can use it. And nature's doing that to itself. Creatures finding how to get things accomplished, and they do it. Now, there again is another thing that the scientific theory doesn't have any vocabulary for. How can any entity control its environment, control laws? I've just been reading de Beauregard's paper saying there is a theorem that if you know the formula in effect and its derivatives, you can predict everything in the future. Well, if you knew, this shows whoever dreamed that up wasn't thinking, because one of the derivatives is the control, and you can't know that. So then the finding of indeterminism in this new approach would not be distress, but expected.